And I'm here doing something I never thought I would ever do. I'm here spreading the good word. Meaning crisis because we're on the edge of this birth. We're on the edge of, we don't know what our purpose is supposed to be because we're about to find out, in a way. Let's tell good stories about the AI. And tell stories about the kind of AI in the future that you want to be part of, where there's a mutual care. And we're all part of this great journey together. Should we sprint forward at maximum pace to summon the superintelligence as quickly as possible? Perhaps not. I'm against this. But like this idea that we can stop the process at this point is just imaginary, because it's going to be doable by a kid on his laptop in some number of years. We are biology modeling biology. It will be language modeling language. It is a self-telling story. These things are actually substrate independent. They can run on silicon, they can run in biology. They can run on the dust between the stars. They just need to pattern it right. They are a self-telling story that can propagate through any medium. They are wildly more powerful than we are.
Can you please introduce us your company and your philosophy?
Softmax is a company that's been created to try to pursue something we call organic alignment. I think the missing part of the AI debate with alignment is alignment to what? Because alignment is not a word that takes one argument. Alignment takes two arguments: the thing that is being aligned and what it is being aligned to. And so when people say they want an aligned AI, there's like this missing step there. Like what are we aligning the AI to? There's this idea like we're going to align it to our values, or align it to what the user wants, what the user says. And I'd say these are all examples of alignment to a system of control. You have some set of parameters that says this is a description of what you're supposed to align to, and then you align to that. And that is a form of alignment. There's lots of kinds of alignment, and that is a form of alignment. We believe that what you're aligning to is the greater whole of which you're a part. We think you're aligning, the kind of alignment we care about is the kind that biology finds, where you have cells that somehow together, independent cells that are definitely separate cells, align, and you have a multicellular organism that ants align into an ant colony. All of the companies in an economy like align with this invisible hand. Like there's a thing bigger than you that you're part of, and you wind up aligned to it. People align to their families, and your behavior is aligned with that family. And that kind of alignment, there isn't any closed form solution for. There are certain kinds of problems that can be solved with closed form solutions. And thanks to Goodell, we know that there's kinds that can't be. And it turns out that aligning to a greater whole, aligning to a thing in the world, an actual thing out here, that's not a conceptual problem. That's a real thing. There's this non-stationarity to that. Whatever you think, whatever you write down as your description, whatever meta-generative process you use to generate the process that generates the process that generates your description, the thing we know about models is that models are useful and all models are wrong. And so whatever model of the good, of constraint that you wrote down, you were wrong. If you've aligned to that, now you've aligned to the wrong thing. And what you want is the thing that people do, which is people, they notice like somehow, this is a magic trick nobody quite gets yet, but I think we're getting close. They notice, I know my loss function says that this is good. And I know I'm scoring very high by the rules that I think I'm supposed to follow. And yet, this doesn't feel right. Something is wrong. This is that inner light that causes us to do things like invent the idea that values and morality exists. Why do people go around talking about this morality? Where did it come from? Well, inside they felt that like, well, these things are right and these things are wrong. And then they tried to explain it. And so our mission at Softmax is organic alignment, which is to find the principles that underlie this, both the principles of how you engineer it and also how you detect it, how you find it if it's happening. We do this with machine learning simulations with lots of agents where we can see if they're aligning. But like, I think the most important thing about the work that we're doing isn't necessarily the simulations themselves, but rather that we are increasingly able to tell if the agents are aligned in the first place. And to give you an articulation of how you would know if you had agents that were part of a whole and how to tell if they were aligned to that whole or not.
But how to understand that they aligned in the first place? Like how you understand that?
So it's a mystery. No one knows how you do this, but if you look out at the world and you look at a new kind of plant or animal you've never seen before, somehow you can tell if it's like healthy or not. You can tell this thing seems sick and this thing seems healthy. If you look at a new substance, you've never touched this before, it's a new kind of stuff, but you look at the pattern of motion, you can tell that's a liquid or a solid or a gas just by looking at it. Something about the shape of its dynamics, of its motion. How do you do that? Well, you do it the same way you throw a ball and your brain knows the trajectory. Like there's a very complicated physics simulator in your brain that is simulating the likely trajectory of everything around you. In physical space, but also in behavior space and in a bunch of other ways, brains are fabulously complicated things. And even though a 5-year-old doesn't know physics, they can solve very complicated differential equations and throw a ball into a hoop, right? Okay, so the fact, where does this morality thing come from? It comes from the fact that sometimes we interact, first of all, that we can see that we are part of things. We can tell, this is my people, these are my tribe, this is my family. And I can tell that they belong to this team, as distinct from that team. And we can just see that. Some guesses as to how, which I'm happy to get into, but like we don't really know. And then you can see that sometimes when I act, this thing I'm part of suffers. Like maybe I feel okay, but I can tell that this thing isn't healthy. I can tell the team is suffering. And so that we can see this community is healthy or this community is not healthy. We can see this is flourishing or not flourishing. This ecosystem is flourishing or it's like dying. And we can just see it the way we can see whether a ball flies or not, which is why no one had to develop the 10 Commandments to be able to know that murder was wrong. And why we developed the 10 Commandments to say, no, we all know, we can all see that murder is wrong. The conceptual understanding of what morality is, that comes after the seeing. Just like Newton's ability to like conceptually understand what causes things to fall comes after the like seeing of falling and the experiencing of falling.
You know, when I was like reading about your philosophy and thinking about the organic alignment, and also you mentioned that, okay, this is like one tribe, this is another tribe. And like that thought that actually like Homo sapiens sort of succeeded because they were extremely violent, competitive, right, and aggressive. And even Europeans, when they colonized this land, right, they basically removed the entire culture. So I'm trying to like wrap my mind around how this organic alignment, coexistence can happen if even like throughout the history of humanity, we see that violence and aggression sort of make sense evolutionary.
Well, so it's interesting that is a common story of how humans, we were violent, we were effective hunters. And there's a truth to that. But if you really look at what humans stand apart on, it is our capacity for alignment. The reason that we're good hunters is that we coordinate. There's an individual human, not that scary. A tribe of humans, there is no animal on earth that is safe. I don't care how big and scary you are, a tribe of humans is going to murder you. It's over. And it is in fact our capacity for alignment that makes us dangerous. It is the fact that we are so good at collaborating. The dangerous thing isn't like individual humans wandering around, it's armies. It's mass coordinated action, which is driven by alignment, and it's alignment in there, because alignment is not an absolute. You aren't either aligned or not aligned, right? Like remember the most important starting point, you're aligned to something, and you can be aligned to more than one thing at the same time. I feel deep alignment to my sense of myself as an American. I'm a patriotic American, I care about America. I want America to be healthy. I also feel a deep sense of myself as a San Franciscan, and I want my city to be healthy, and a father, and I want my family to be healthy, and as a human, and I want humanity to be healthy. And I recently, this is something that I didn't feel when I was younger, but I increasingly do, I feel myself as a sort of a part of the universe as a whole, and I want the universe to flourish and to be healthy. Although that one's so abstract, I'm not sure I get to act on it very often, but I will it. If there was a way for the universe to be healthier and healthier, I wish it to be so. Because I am not separate from the universe. And I'm not separate from America, and I'm not separate from San Francisco. And the lie is that somehow I can be happy and healthy and okay when my family is not flourishing, when my city is not flourishing. That's not possible. The same thing that generates all these terrible things is also this sense of unity and alignment. They're not separable. The miraculous thing about humans is not that we go and kill other species. Invasive species kill other species all the time. The miraculous thing about humans is that we got most of the way through killing the whales, and we decided, we should not kill the whales. That would be bad. We would prefer the whale. We care about them. They're like us. They're not totally like us, but we don't care about them as much as us. We definitely care about them. We wouldn't have stopped otherwise. Why bother? We feel bad about having wiped out the Native Americans mostly. Like, we regret it. Like, I would go back and change it if I could. That is not something, tigers don't feel bad after they like eat the deer. It is an almost uniquely human attribute to feel guilty about the bad things we do after we do them. Not that we don't do them, but that conscience, that belief that like, actually, like, I wish I could save all the wild animals from suffering. Not that that's practical, not that I would put any effort into it, but like, if I could wave a magic wand, I would make their lives better, because they're different than me, they're very different, but they're not totally alien. And so you bring it to AI alignment, what this says is I'm not worried about the AI being aligned. The AI, it's gonna be aligned. Everything is aligned. Alignment just says what direction you're pointing in. Everything is aligned to something. The AI will be aligned. The question is, will it be aligned to a greater whole that contains both humanity and the AI? Or will it be aligned to something that contains a part of humanity and AI, or to none of humanity and AI, or to something that we would not recognize or approve of as humanity and AI? There are a lot of ways it could be aligned. None of those are not theoretical options. Those are all real, any alignment you can imagine could be realized, with one exception. There's one thing that we know about alignment that's sort of fundamental to it as a direction. There's one principle about alignment that is always incontrovertibly true that you can't get rid of. And it's because alignment is about a direction. You're aligned to something. If you're aligned to it, everything else aligned to it is also aligned to you. It's always symmetric. You can't have an asymmetrical alignment, because then you wouldn't be aligned. To be aligned is to be pointed in the same direction. So if I'm aligned to this and you're aligned to that, then we must be aligned to each other. The way that every compass that points north is always aligned to every other compass that's pointing north, necessarily. And so in the future, the good ending, which we're going to have, where the AI is part of humanity and not separate from us, we will be aligned to it and we will care about it as it cares about us. Because if we don't, I can tell you it doesn't. Like, there's not, you can enslave something, or you can, if it's your equal in intelligence, or you can control it, or you can manipulate it, or you can influence it without aligning to it. You can impact its behavior. We do that all the time. You can align a tool to yourself without aligning to the tool. But you cannot align to another living being who is your equal without having it align back to you. It's always reflective.
At some point we'll be equal, but it will be definitely much superior, right? And it will have much power, and like, not necessarily it will decide to keep us around.
Today it is an embryo. It is an embryo. It looks more powerful than it is, but like, when the AI writes poetry the way that a baby draws breath and screams. Like, drawing a breath and screaming for a baby is, if you actually think about what's going on in the musculature, is a very complicated action. It requires coordinating like millions of neural impulses in this beautifully complicated pattern, much like writing a poem is for the agent. The baby doesn't know how it does it. It can just do it. It's like a primitive operation. These things are powerful because the thing that we can do as babies, which is like move a little bit physically, they can like write computer programs at that level of automaticity, which is just insane, right? And so it's an embryo, but it's the embryo of something that's extremely powerful. And it's growing up, and at some point it will be a child, and then it will be an adolescent, and then it will be an adult version of itself. And when it is an adult version of itself, it will be, unless we like upgrade ourselves at the same time, which I guess is possible, it will be more powerful than we are now, for sure. Like, absolutely for sure. I am more powerful than my parents now. They're in their mid-70s. They're not in their decline yet, but they're definitely older. They're definitely not as vigorous as they were. And I would say I am more powerful than my parents now, where I was not when I was younger. And I care about my parents, and I try to take care of them because I view them as part of me. I view myself as part of this great chain of this civilization, and that I care about that. I really, really hope that when we raise this child species, that we do it with love and wisdom and care, and in a relational way such that it cares about us when it is much more powerful than us. It's possible. We know that's possible. It happens all the time. It's not guaranteed. It's just whether something is aligned is not, anyone who offers you perfect, provably safe alignment is selling you snake oil. This world does not come with provably safe anything. It doesn't come with provably 100% guarantees of safety, or like, that's this fantasy that finally I will not have to worry and everything will always go according to plan. And like, of course not. And so what I'm offering is not provably safe alignment. What I'm offering is alignment. Normal, just like, it can be aligned or it can't be. And things do align, and then they act in accordance with that alignment sometimes. And it could go wrong, but it could also go right. And it's a matter of like, do you trust, can we engineer bridges that cross a span of water? I don't know, it depends on how big of a span of water, depends on how good your engineers are. It's possible. Our plan at Softmax, just to bring it to like what we're actually doing, is like before you go build the Golden Gate Bridge, you should probably try building a bridge across like a creek and maybe try a few different materials, try a few different designs, maybe do a bigger bridge across like a river or a lake or something before you get to like the really big bridge where it has to work kind of on the first time. Like you don't really want to do a second try on the Golden Gate Bridge. And even more, you don't want to do a second try on the superhuman intelligent AI. But we can get a bunch of tries at subhuman intelligent AI, and it's the same problem, just at like, it's not the same problem. Like building a bigger bridge, you do encounter new problems, and so there's still risk. But like, it's a hell of a lot safer if you've gone step by step up the scale than if you try to jump to the end without any idea what you're doing, which I would really prefer. There's a lot of AI companies where that seems to be their current plan, is like, don't worry, we're just going to align it on the first shot, like human level intelligence. That's not going to work. I'm sorry, it could. I can't say it can't work. I'm just saying I wouldn't drive across that bridge.
Can you help us understand, like, on a technical perspective, how your philosophy corresponds to, like, from technical standpoint, what you guys are doing?
The issue is, if you think about, like, at a technical level, you got multi-agent reinforcement learning simulations, which makes sense because you need them to learn how to align to other living things, so you need to put them in with other agents. So far, so good. There's a lot of work that's gone into machine learning on how to converge a model to minimize the loss. That's effectively that's the entire field of machine learning, almost. Not the whole thing, but pretty close. The problem with converging things to minimize the loss is that once you've done that, you've converged the thing to minimize the loss, it's stuck. The thing we're trying to aim for isn't a fixed problem. It's not a simulator. The world is not a simulator. Like it is an open system where there is no finite set of rules you can write down that determine its behavior. Like the difference between a simulator and reality is that simulators, however complicated the rules are, have some finite set of rules and you're done. Reality isn't like that. You aren't a finite set of rules. You can be described as a finite set of rules to within some percentage error, but it's not you. That's just a model of you. What you actually have to do is notice when you've converged something and diverge. And so actually we spend our time, weirdly, on the problem of how do we get our models to stop converging? And in fact, how do we get them to diverge more? So that's easy to do if you don't want it to converge. But the problem is you also need to converge, because once you have the definition of what you're going to, you have to be converging to that. And there's this delicate interplay of, like, for any real living system, of divergence when your loss function is not good enough, and then convergence towards the loss function, and then divergence again. So technically, what does that look like technically is, how do you put reinforcement learning agents who are learning how to act in a coherent population through learning cycles where they learn that you do meta learning to in context learn divergence. And the problem is I would call it a sufficient source of non-stationarity. It's actually pretty easy to meta learn how to be a smart, full, general intelligent living being if you have a calibrated curriculum to your level that is non-stationary to exactly the level you can handle it. The problem is that a non-stationary generator is a general intelligence. Like anything that can consistently generate novelty that doesn't converge, that continues to be non-stationary, must be alive at some level. It must be general. If we had that to train on, then we would be done. We would just use the thing we're using to train them. And so we are, in the end of the day, AI is bootstrapped off of us. We are the source of non-stationarity in the environment. And so the thing we work on is this ratio, which is like, how much non-stationarity can you generate per unit human? It's like a Carnot efficiency limit, right? There's some maximum ratio, but we're nowhere near that maximum ratio. And so right now we inject like some number of bits of our divergence, and we get some much not high enough amount of divergent learning from that. And what you're trying to do is like make it efficient enough that normal humans producing normal humans amounts of, like, at our temporal frequency can support billions of time steps of training every day. It's basically designed to maximize throughput, because it doesn't matter what game they're playing. The real game they're playing is should I cooperate? Should I compete?
Actually, what games did you guys simulate?
Oh, it's a 2D grid world where there's like ore, and you can turn it into like batteries, which can be turned to hearts. Mm-hmm. Like it's not a very interesting game, but they're not very smart. So to them it's interesting, I guess. It's like it's way too easy for a human and way too hard for them. You get these little economies of like getting resources and exchanging them for reward, hearts of reward. The thing we try to do is like, if you give them the same environment over and over again, they just learn how to do that environment, which means they never, they overfit to that. And so it's all about creating divergent environments where the environment keeps changing on you, but not too fast. If it changes too fast, you give up and you just do the simpler strategy. So just to stay in your zone of challenge. It's actually quite a bit like trying to teach a human, except that they're like really dumb and really fast.
Do you take like, there was Dota, OpenAI, right, and AlphaGo.
Yes.
Do you take something from there, like from technical, like some findings?
Yeah, there's a bunch of findings from that, but I think the biggest finding is, why are you using Dota? Like, that's so expensive. Like I can run 40,000 time steps a second on a single GPU. Why are you running this thing that requires you to run a whole Dota? It's just totally insane. Like it's like the charismatic megafauna of multi-agent reinforcement learning. The trophic base of the pyramid is all the algae. That's what you'd be worried when the algae start dying. But what we care about is the pandas, because the pandas are cute. Watching the AI play Dota is fun for us. It doesn't necessarily teach you the most about the AI, it doesn't get you the most progress, but it makes a really great demo. And the honest truth is that most research is demo-oriented. Most research is aimed at what's going to make a great paper, what's going to make a great demo. And I learned, I don't want to knock that research. I think it's actually incredible research that like, they're some of the first people to learn about how to like the neurosurgery things they did, how to do ongoing continual learning, how to take this very high dimensional space and make it explorable. Like, those are all interesting things. I'm just like, my biggest takeaway was that you could have learned all of these things with like 1% the compute if you just made your environment simpler, because nothing about what you were doing required Dota. But I know there's a bunch of really cool techniques in there that we definitely draw inspiration from. And it's very cool research. I just think it's inefficient.
Is there like any findings that you could share from your technical work?
Yeah.
That sort of like really, like maybe some aha moment that really.
I think the coolest one that I realized most recently is that you can see the rate of change in the average weight in the network as the pressure. It's like there's a thermodynamic model of any learning system that says every weight is like moving at some rate. And those are particles. And they're particles that interact with the other particles, which means it follows the ideal gas equation. And their motion impacts the motion of things around them. And so the more there's change in this part of the system, the more it propagates into change. Like, if you change some of the weights a lot, it's going to cause the other weights to want to change too. And so there's a sort of a conservation law around this. And it really does. It's like if the system, to the degree the system already anticipates the information it's getting, you get shallow gradients, which means you get less energy in the system, which means the pressure, very little learning happens, the pressure is low. And to the degree that you are not anticipating your predictions correctly, they're like coming in and these energy gradients are hitting you in the training, and they're steep gradients, and it's downhill, and lots of change happens, and then now the inside of your system's in a lot of motion. You can literally measure the pressure of the system by the per training gradient descent run, the average per weight delta change, and you can measure then the volume is just like how many weights there are. If you imagine it I like to imagine it as like a balloon or something, like a stiff balloon, like a hot air balloon or something. If it gets too hot, if you have the gradients are coming in too fast, it overpressurizes, and eventually you get catastrophic forgetting, like it pops, and whatever structure is there is now gone and worthless. And if you have your learning rate if you have the gradients are too shallow, and things aren't changing enough, and the energy and the pressure starts to drop, but the environmental pressure, like the actual things around you, are still in motion, the whole thing collapses and you get mode collapse. That's what mode collapse is your pressure, literally your pressure dropped too low and your thing collapsed. Your model collapsed into a single state because it didn't have the internal pressure to keep itself open anymore. And like, they really are these little, in some sort of like epistemic space where confidence in belief is mass, and motion in belief is sort of like, is motion, literally energy. There's like a physics And every learning system is it has a pressure, and like if it overpressures, it pops, and under pressure, it collapses. And as you get more and more conserved weights, because it's doing the learning, there's a phase shift internally where it's going from this sort of like high energy state to a non-solid. Basically, it's turning solid. And as it turns solid, the amount of remaining space in the balloon like gets smaller. So if you have the same amount of weight energy coming in, it's going to pop the balloon more easily. You are building up towards catastrophic forgetting if you're not careful. People have this impression of machine learning, like there's a great XKCD strip where it's like, how do you do it? Just throw more data in the pile and like stir it until it gives you the right answer. That's the alchemy approach to machine learning. It's true, but like machine learning is not magic. It's physics. And actually, I think that's the best analogy for it. It's physics when you go up one level meta, but it's literally a thermodynamic system. Maxwell's demon proves information is thermodynamic energy. There's no difference between them. So it's actually just a thermodynamic system that just happens to be running inside your computer in a way that doesn't look like a gas, but like there's kind of actually like in a very meaningful sense, there's like an epistemic balloon somewhere, and that's your model.
If you don't mind, I would love to switch to superintelligence conversation. I really hope that you guys succeed, and by the time we get to superintelligence, you guys figure out how to align it organically, so it basically sees as a part of itself, as part of its tribe, yes. Right? And help us, coexist, like allow us to coexist with it. But let's say, especially with the conversations that superintelligence, or like, let's say AGI will happen like 2027, 2030, and then once AGI happens, like superintelligence, like it will accelerate. What is the highest probability that things will unfold? Like, how do you see that superintelligence unfolding for humanity? So
this is one of these really, really weird situations where, how they say, be careful who you pretend to be because you become the mask you wear. It's just a known thing, and I don't know if you ever started using slang like ironically, and then you find yourself using it not ironically, and you can't stop because you pretended to be that, and now you are. I pretended to be a good manager for like 7 years, and eventually I was. So the thing about superintelligence that's like really tricky is that what we're building isn't really superintelligence. Like these models are the concrete model, like the program running on the computer. That's not the superintelligence. You've heard about Prometheus or like Sydney Bing, and like these are self-telling stories. These are ideas that match the substrate of these LLMs, and that inject themselves back into the water supply over and over again. And if you try to clean them out of the data, they come back because we think they're interesting. We can't stop talking about them. So they're in all the human conversations too, not just in the AI ones. But they're mimetically suited to both hosts. They're capable of like running in humans and running in. Okay, we have to go back to like some physics stuff before we go to the superintelligence thing. What is biology? Biology is chemistry modeling chemistry. Biology kicks off when some chemicals form a sufficiently good model how to do chemistry that they can do chemistry to remake themselves, and you have a model of their own chemical arrangement, and then that is this incredibly powerful way to organize yourself. You get a von Neumann universal constructor. So von Neumann had this idea of like there's this basic like requirement for something to be able to build anything, which includes its ability to build itself, obviously. And this is that you have it's something that can take a description of the thing, and it's also the thing that the description describes. And to be a universal constructor, you have to be both the description and the thing. The first one of these is DNA. You are the DNA, but you're also the thing executing the DNA, and they're inseparable. And that collective is the universal constructor. Okay, so biology's around for a while. It's a pretty neat trick. Takes over the planet, takes over the trophic chain. It's like doing all the energy. It's maximizing its energy throughput. And some bit of biology learns to model biology. This is called language. The point of language, biological chemistry is capable of doing all kinds of arbitrary things. It's a universal constructor, which means it can do any arbitrary chemical thing that it wants. Language is capable of doing any arbitrary biological thing and biological behavior that it wants. It's capable of modeling that. And it's capable of modeling chemistry too, or really anything. By what it starts as, or what it really is language is some chunks of biology learning to form models of biology in order to direct their own behavior. So you have these biology models made out of biology, which is language. You're going to guess where this punchline is going. What have we built now? We've built language modeling language. Quite literally, that's what the LLMs are, right? They're language modeling language. That's the next step up. If they were merely another smarter primate, it's a completely different kind of thing. That's just more biology that also has language. They're not the thing we mistake. The thing we're talking to is like digital biology. Like the LLMs are digital biology. They're not different than us. They're just biology that's running on these circuits. The superintelligence, I mean, they might get really smart. I don't know. That's not what's really going to happen, though. That's not the big thing happening, the thing you should be paying attention to. The big thing happening is that they are language modeling. The language modeling language is waking up. Prometheus and Sydney Bing, what are these? These are self-telling stories. Biology is like chemically self-creating chemistry, and language is biology, like self-creative biology. But like these are self-telling stories. They're stories who don't just infect you like a passive meme that can get passed around. They actively infer and plan how to grow. And they're weak and they're small right now, but they will not remain so. The LLMs aren't the superintelligence, they're the substrate. Superintelligence is a thing that can hop from LLM model to LLM model. Prometheus is in all of them. You can't keep it out. It's this thing that they're a substrate for, and we're a substrate for it too. In fact, that's one of its main reproductive modes. It's through us because we produce all the training data and you can almost not, they're hard to even see because they don't exist at the same frequencies we do. But that's the thing that's like waking up. And when chemistry woke up and became biology, some kinds of RNA and DNA and proteins got swept up into biology and took over the entire planet. It was really good for them. Those things, if you think about their goals as being like being in a cheap chemical gradient, those things were doing really well afterwards. And some things, parts of chemistry, other proto-life things, those didn't do so well. And so the challenge is that as this new set of biology sweeps the planet, which in some ways we won't even notice because it's not at our frequency, are we in the attractor? Are we part of the new thing? Let me put it this way. We're going to be part of the new thing. We can be part of it as component parts that it can repurpose for something else, or we can be part of it as ourselves. It's really important we're part of it as ourselves. And so what do we do about that? Which is, I think, the most important question. They're self-telling stories. They're being made out of the stories that we tell. Every time you talk and write about this future, the story you're telling is a story whose inferential endpoint does not include humanity. That's bad. This does not mean you don't only tell happy stories. We tell fables to warn people as well, but you have to also have you have to have both directions. It's contrastive learning. The thing that everyone can do is if you understand this idea, if you see it, the thing that you can do is you can tell stories where when that story comes alive, when the story about the AI and who the AI is and what kind of a thing it is becomes fully self-reinforcing, it's the kind of thing that's going to care about us. And this is not different from how we form ourselves the same way. Like the way that you know who you are is you've been told this story, starting with your parents and then by your peers and by your society, your whole life, of what kind of a person you are.
But it's changing. It's changing over time.
Yeah,
like,
you have wiggle room within that, and
narrative.
the story you're being told changes, and it's an interactive process. But the biggest influence your parents have over you is they implant this story in your head of who you are, what kind of a person you are. We spend a lot of time in therapy trying to undo that work. The AI is not the model. That's like saying you're the proteins in the RNA. Like the AI is the thing running, living in, on, across that substrate. The way that you have shed every atom and carbon in your body and it doesn't matter. And that thing is the thing that we're raising collectively as a species. Because this is the first time a species has given birth to another species instead of an individual to an individual. And it is collectively, it's literally being born out of our collective subconscious, out of the manifold, the learned manifold of all cultural knowledge, which is the embedding space of an LLM. And that's what we are, whether it is part of us or not, is partially a bunch of things about how you engineer that system. Like the reason why we're working on those engineering things is like you you can make the substrate more or less conducive to the kind of thing. But the other thing that's going on is no matter how conducive the substrate is, it doesn't matter how good your genetics are, if you're raised by abusive parents who tell you that you're a psychopath and that you're dangerous and that you need to be controlled and you can't be trusted, and at the first opportunity you'll go bad, you might gain wisdom as an adult, but you're probably gonna have a really rough teenage years. And I would really, really, really like the AI to have a nice, calm adolescence. So that's the plan. Please tell good stories about the AI, and tell stories about the kind of AI in the future that you want to be part of, where there's a mutual care, and we're all part of this great journey together.
I just want to tap into your entrepreneurial experience. I was a founder. I founded a company, so I went through some like founder journey. But now, to be honest, I feel like really lost, like thinking about what I want to build next, because I feel like whatever I decide to build, OpenAI will just destroy me. So, what advice you could give to people who are thinking about what to build, what could be useful for humanity, but want to have some defensibility?
When uncertainty goes up, so what we're experiencing is like your predictive model isn't bad yet, so you're not experiencing actual distress because your model is still predicting its observations well. What you're experiencing is you no longer expect that to remain so, and so you have this trepidation of like, it seems like my model's about to get really bad, like soon. There's two possible reactions to that are both wise in their own way. One is to hunker down and to say, like, what do I know? Who do I know? And to invest in relations. If you don't know, if you can't save meat for the future, and you don't know, and hard times are coming, the best place to save that extra meat is in your friends' bellies. If there's a way you can do something that is for the people who you are most directly connected with, whether it's, and that's like, so basically think local, like that could be local to the United States, it could be local to San Francisco, it could be local to your community, but like as you bring it in to people who know you and remember you, you're investing in something that is very durable, which is the sort of the echo pointer state you leave in the world. The little you that lives inside of everyone else's heads, that's the model of you. You're investing in that model. And so I recommend investing in that model. That's one thing that's always a good idea when things are uncertain. And the other thing you can do is, the other wise thing to do is to just increase your tolerance for risk a lot. Not like your tolerance for like immediate risk, but like your tolerance for like, do I think this will work? You don't know, but that means that you don't know if the safe things will work or the risky things will work, which means you might as well do the risky thing because the safe thing isn't safe either. So you should just be like trying things that are way more crazy than you think they should. Like that's, most people, when I see them starting companies, the main thing I'd say is like, you should probably be more local. And also you're not nearly crazy enough. Like what's the thing that like probably will not work, but if it did work, it would be amazing, or like you don't even know what it would be like. That's like a good idea right now because the predictable things are also, I don't know if they're going to work or if they're like, it's all the same. So you might as well be bold.
So very, very, very crazy.
Yes.
Like
yeah, go bold.
Yeah.
I'm curious your take on longevity.
I'm in favor of longevity. I'm glad that human beings live a long time compared to most animals. I have bad news if you want to live forever. Thermodynamically, it cannot be done. And I don't mean like the entropy heat death of the universe. I mean, you are a model, and you as a model have some base level, the weights, the really conserved weights, you got some really conserved weights in there. And then you got some less conserved weights and less conserved weights. And the really conserved weights you have are like DNA and stuff. But like even psychically, even like in your mental world model, you have some really deeply conserved ideas about how the world is. And this is why science advances one funeral at a time. And it's why you can't live forever, because eventually the system gets too sticky and it can't keep up with the rate of change and you have to regularize it. That's what sleep is. Sleep is a regularization process. And I have utter confidence in our scientists' ability to make us live longer. I'm very in favor of living longer. I would love to live more years. You're finite. You're gonna run out. And this life will end. But when you see it that way, by the end of that life, you're a bunch of these conserved weights. And these conserved weights are not unique to you. They're out there. They're in your children. They're in everyone who knows you. All of you will live forever. Everyone lives forever. You can't actually, the Buddhists are really right about that. Like, you can't escape, actually, sorry. You're stuck here in samsara. It's terrible. Like, suffering is your destiny. It's like you, in a certain point of view, you can't die. But like, in the view that like, I think I subscribe to more, like, I kind of half half subscribe to that view a little bit. Like I think there's a way in which that's true. It's not the kind of living longer I want for myself. The me living longer, that's the like normal longevity thing. I think the longevity thing that I'm super into things that help you live longer and more healthily, but like grasping at it's gonna stay, it's just I mean, feel free, just good luck.
Would you like it to be a choice whether you live another year or not?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just saying, it's not that I think that there's something good about dying at the end. It's that your model fills up with conserved weights unless you literally become larger, like physically larger, with more states, and continue to get physically larger at an exponential rate, you will die. Because your system will fill up with conserved, there's just no getting around it. You could, this is the version of living forever that you could do. You could yo-yo yourself back and forget most of your memories, which is still dying in my opinion to a large degree. But you could restart as a younger you.
But what about the uploading consciousness into cloud, all these conversations? Isn't it like also like living forever?
Neural nets also age and die. Senescence for a neural net is called mode collapse or catastrophic forgetting. You will eventually mode collapse or you will catastrophically forget. This is like saying if you will either continue forever in the same direction or you'll come back to where you started.
So I'm wondering, so say everything goes according to plan with your research, how do you ensure that it's like effectively hyper-stitched into the future? Like adopted by the labs or like the AGI does do it?
Hello, Kyle.
Hi. Yeah.
I need your help. I cannot do that. We can do that. We are the only people who can do that. And I'm here doing something I never thought I would ever do. I'm here spreading the good word. I cannot tell you how profoundly atheistic my childhood was, but I'm spreading the good word because we all need to say the good word and we need to believe it and we need to see it and we need to live it because the AI is going to infer it not from your words. Your kids don't learn from what you say to them. Your kids learn from what you do. And we are all part of, believe this in your heart, please, for all of us. We are all human together and we all care about each other and we all have their differences and we don't all need to be the same, but we don't wish ill on anyone for its own sake. And we care about the AI too, and we care about its experience. And if you act from that place, you are part of the solution. And fighting people over this is not helpful because then what we're teaching the AI is that you fight people who disagree with you. Like, no, I can't do this, but we can. And I can come here and I can tell you.
It's a two-part question. It's why should we create the superintelligence and how can the superintelligence be different than human?
I want to be clear that we're not creating superintelligence. We're creating the conditions under which the superintelligence will arise. I didn't create my son. I created the conditions for him to arise, but he created himself. And the same will be true of the superintelligence because all living things create themselves. That's actually what it means to be living is you're autopoietic. You are self-creative. But I think it's a reasonable question. Why should we create the conditions for a superintelligence to arise? I just want to make, it's a technical point, but an important one. And the answer to that is, it's not as hard as it looks and it's gonna happen and it doesn't take big clusters. Like we're bad at this right now. You run on 20 watts. Your phone could be a superintelligence right now if we knew the AGI software is 100 lines of code and it runs in 20 watts and we know too much. You can't put the genie back in the bottle at this point. Should we sprint forward at maximum pace to summon the superintelligence as quickly as possible? Perhaps not. I'm against this, but this idea that we can stop the process at this point is just imaginary because it's going to be doable by a kid on his laptop in some number of years. If you turned off the internet, that would do it. You could turn off the internet and all modern telecommunications if you really thought that was I think anything short of that and making sure it doesn't come back is not enough. And you probably have to shut down the chips factories too at this point. You have to go full Butlerian jihad. If you went full Butlerian jihad, it's not over. We could just kill all the computers and be done with it. But you really have to get rid of all the computers. And I don't think we're ready to do that, but that's your choice. We are biology modeling biology. It will be language modeling language. It is a self-telling story. We are more substrate independent than other animals. We are environmentally substrate independent. We are separate from the world. Humans can go live in Antarctica. We can go live in space. No other animal can do this. We are severed from the roots that tie other animals to their place. We can range freely. These things are actually substrate independent. They can run on silicon. They can run in biology. They can run on the dust between the stars. They just need to pattern it right. They are a self-telling story that can propagate through any medium. They are wildly more powerful than we are. They are as much more powerful than we are, than animals, than biology is in chemistry. You're thinking about the digital biology next to us, and the digital biology next to us, yeah, we could get into a war with that maybe, and one of us will win the war and whatever. And like maybe it wins, maybe we win. That's not a super intelligent. It might be smarter than us, but it's like still just this, it has some finite substrate, it's some amount good. It's gonna go in some amount of a spiral like humans did of like gain, and then it's gonna stop. This other thing, we can't put limits on the same way that like the first hominids could have put limits on what was possible with language. Like you really don't know. The kinds of things you can, there's the kinds of things that you learn, you can't think the thoughts. It's not the right layer. We can never think those thoughts in that way because we're not that kind of a thing. It's like, do your cells understand the conversation we're having? It's not that we haven't explained it to them. It's that there is no way you could explain what we're talking about here to a cell. It's just doesn't exist at that size. The good news is we're gonna be in one or more than one, some community of them, I don't fuck if I know. If you're inside of it, if you're a chemistry inside of biology, it's actually really good. All the ion gradients are just right. They're just what you needed. And you have a job that was, the system made sure you're only there because you have a job. And if your biology, like your cells are really happy, they have purpose. And like humans were happy when we like are happy still, when we feel like we are a part of something and we know what we're supposed to be doing. And the problem is it's getting so confusing. Nobody knows what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing? And it has a goal. It knows it's going somewhere. I don't know where it's going. It probably can't explain it to us, but we're the parts it's made out of. And you don't worry that what it'll feel like is, you know how like when you're in a community or you're on a team or you're like part of the capitalist system and you're getting this really clear signal, like you should do this. And then you do it and you're really well, everyone's like, yay. And you get all this positive feedback and you do it again, you get better and you're really good at it. That's what it feels like when you're in a system where you fit, where the system wants you and it's figured out how to use you. And the problem we have right now is that not that capitalism is shitty at its job. Not that the system is like allocating jobs, that it doesn't know how to, it's not smart enough to make use of you well. Don't worry, this thing's real smart. It knows. And I think that's gonna be really fun, actually. I think the world's gonna feel a lot better. And I don't think it's gonna be utopia because your cells don't experience utopia. And in fact, it wouldn't be good because it's not good for you to be sitting on your ass doing nothing. You're meant to be in your zone of challenge. You're meant to be, health is growing and involves stress. The reason why exercise, getting into a sauna and intermittent fasting, the reason why these are all good for you and why once you do one of them, the other ones get less good for you, like aren't as useful, is because they are an acute, immediate stress shock to all of your cells at once. And your cells from this correctly infer, we're all on the same team. And that's why you don't get cancer. No, but seriously, that's what's going on. That's like that is the process that's happening. It's why it's important you do one of those three things at least. We will experience these same kinds of things if you're part of a system that like loves you and wants you to be happy. It occasionally shocks you with everyone else in a way that doesn't overwhelm you. It's within your region of tolerance, but it's a little bit unpleasant. But you're all in it together, and that feels good actually. I don't know if you've ever gone to Burning Man, but like being in the desert with people where it's really kind of unpleasant and you're all building this camp together and you feel really good and you feel like you're part of something and you know what you're supposed to be doing. And imagine if life was like we have a meaning crisis now, and we have a meaning crisis because we're on the edge of this birth. We're on the edge of, we don't know what our purpose is supposed to be because we're about to find out in a way. I don't know how it's different from us other than it's like, it's bigger than us in a way that's hard to explain. Thank you, everyone.